Hello guys, welcome back to my channel and enjoy this fanfic part 2. Now let's start the fanfic. Anko had to use all her shinobi training to hide the otherwise noticeable limp she was sporting from the intense ing Naruto put her through last night and later on while in the shower earlier this morning when he woke up. Fortunately, Kyuubi had been kind enough to keep the sperm sterile until much later, so the chance of pregnancy being zero, and no one would suspect the two of going at it like rabbits in heat. Not that Anko was regretting her action in getting screwed roughly by the genin, as she had desired it long before Naruto using his submission eye, for a UAL relationship with a man capable of doing such things to her, and filling, among other things, that void within her soul that always seemed empty until now. Granted, had Naruto's bloodline not put her in this position, Anko would have most likely missed it, and the now legally adult of a genin-ranked shinobi would be suffering a great deal of pain at the moment long after she first encountered him roughly a year ago. With a smirk on her face, the special Junin was thought back to that memory of how he was able to elude her for as long as he did, and her stupid overreaction to him spilling of all that lovely dango. It may not have been my proudest moment back then, but damn did the end results get me the best lay I've had by a man since, ever. Thought Anko, as she tried not to let the pain of her sore show when walking to the Hokage's office to report for duty, and getting the boy his old apartment back. Provided it was spruced up and cleaner than a newborn baby's butt. Along the way to the Hokage's office, Anko noticed Nara Yoshino walking out of her house looking more angrier than usual, and the special Junin couldn't help in wondering why that was the case. The source of the Chunin's anger was most likely her husband or son being their usual lazy Nara selves in being, well, lazy. However, Anko realized that this anger was beyond the usual kind the woman experienced, and the special Junin decided to let her curiosity get the best of her. "Hey Yoshino-chan. How are you today?" said Anko in her usual cheery way. "Oh hi Anko-chan. I'm doing okay," said Yoshino, but Anko could hear the strain it took for the woman to sound even remotely happy, and it wasn't hard to see it involved one of the Nara men in her life. "Problems again at home," said Anko, knowing that saying the word troublesome or just trouble at all. "I keep forgetting your shinobi skills exceed mine when it comes to reading people," said Yoshino, as she let out a sigh, and was clearly unhappy right now. "I'll take that as a yes," said Anko, seeing Yoshino nod. "It's my no-good lazy husband. I wanted to have some fun last night, but the lazy bum blew me off, saying, such an act is too troublesome right now, and even stated that they already had a kid, so trying again was pointless. Can you believe that? I didn't want just to have another child. Kami. I just wanted to have, and would have used the anti-pregnancy jutsu before we went at it so he was covered. Why I married that bum I will never know. I can't believe I even liked him at such a young age before jumping into the idea of marriage to that lazy impotency-defining man," said Yoshino, getting angrier and angrier with each passing second of her speaking ill about Shikaku. "Damn, I didn't know it was that bad," thought Anko, seeing the woman so tense right now from the lack of the good stuff. "I was lucky to even be pregnant with Shikamaru. I don't even remember the time that occurred to even make me pregnant with him in the first place. For all I know, the man just inseminated me in my sleep, and cut out the whole intimacy thing altogether. What's worse is that he'd actually do that, and I can actually believe that Baka would do just that," said Yoshino, kicking a rock in front of her, which went sailing of a lamp post, a wall, and hit a bum in an alley in the temple. "What are you going to do? I mean, a girl has needs, and if the man she's with can't give it then," said Anko, seeing Yoshino getting angrier. "I don't know. Part of me just wants have a temporary separation from him, but if I do that, then I could mess up my son's mind, and there is a matter of who lives in the Nara clan home. I know since I married into the clan, Shikaku Baka should live there, but it's because of me that our son even gets up in the morning, and possibly breathes at all. I feel conflicted," said Yoshino, as she had never felt this twisted and tense inside. "It wasn't healthy. Your kid will understand. From what I understand, he graduated from the academy, and thus can make his own decisions in life that won't affect your life. If you ask me, the best thing to do not only for them, but more for yourself, is to get some of your own personal space, and then find a male stud that will actually want to you all night long. Said Anko, as she saw Yoshino blush at the idea, but even though she married, and had a kid young though of herself as a plain housewife. Sure, she still had everything in place where it counted, making her a MILF of sorts, but even then what man would want? Used goods, and even want a relationship with her if she left Shikaku completely. At best, she'd be someone's lover for a few years, then some other young piece of would drag the man she was with away, and then Yoshino was going to be back to square one. As if any man would want me considering how I act. Maybe it's my fault in some ironic way. You know how I am when it comes to men, Anko. Men constantly fear me for what I might do whether or not they actually do something to warrant my anger on them in the first place. Said Yoshino, as she was considered scary by her own son, and knew any guy bossed around by her would just cut their losses first chance they got. Yeah, though that was more of a habit you picked up after being around Shikaku since his lazy could barely move unless you used a cattle prod on him. You are your own woman, Yoshino, and my friend. One of the few I have in this village. Separate from him for now, then wait a little while to sort things out, and have a little fun for once. All you do is cook, clean, and run that house like it was yours to begin with when we both know the clan head is supposed to do all of that. The only reason Sume does it with her clan, is because she is an Inuzuka by blood, and her husband wasn't when they got together. Said Anko, seeing Yoshino frown in thought, knowing her point was valid on all fronts. I suppose you're right. Chances are, the best thing to do for the family is to have some kind of separation from them, and just live a little away from the suffocating style of working my fingers to the bone all day while yelling at Shikaku to life a whole finger in one of his hands, said Yoshino, as she looked more focused on the idea than ever before, and Anko was glad her advice helped. That's my girl. Besides, if you need a place to stay, head to the apartment complex where Uzumaki Naruto lives, and live there for a while, said Anko, as she already had a plan in motion, and get her young stud something good. Uzumaki Naruto? You mean, it's jailer? Said Yoshino, as she had no problem with the boy, even gave Shikaku grief on not adopting Kushina's son, but the spineless man would just endure her anger until it was spent like he was weathering a storm, and just say the whole thing was too troublesome to get involved. Yeah, I trained the kid for the last year in being a shinobi after the Hokage found out about the sabotaging of his education the instructors at the academy were doing, and now he's graduated Rookie of the Year. No one lives in that apartment complex because of him, but because no one does. The rates are extremely low, and I'm sure the Hokage can make things easier if it means giving the Gaki extra company, said Anko, know already about how Yoshino favored the boy more than other parents did. It's something to consider in terms of a temporary home. How do I know the kid won't try anything perverted? I don't want some panty raider living across or a few levels above me, said Yoshino, looking at Anko with a glare. Naruto. A pervert? Please. I had to give him the talk, and the poor Gaki was so afraid I'd hurt him for posing so he could see what a real woman's body actually looked like, said Anko, which was a lie in term of giving Naruto the talk, but true for the posing, and showing him a woman's body. You actually did that, couldn't you get in trouble? Said Yoshino, keeping her voice down now unless someone overheard this part. I told the Hokage it was the only way the Gaki could understand things about. It's not like I slept with him, Yoshino. I just explained things through visual aid. Books just show the internal stuff, but never the external, and if they did, it's mostly filled with some sick pervert's handwriting. If you must know, Naruto-kun was a complete gentleman, and had asked for permission to look before actually looking, said Anko, while inside her head, the memory of Naruto, learning, made the fire in her loins stir again, and tried to keep it under wraps while telling herself she needed time recovering from earlier. If you'll vouch for him, then I'll live in the same building as him, but if I so much as see a blonde hair smelling of ramen in my home uninvited nearby unmentionables, I'm going to remove his balls, and then I'm coming after your tits, said Yoshino, as she knew how to hurt a woman like she did men, and the best way to do it was hitting the privates no matter their location. Trust me, if anything, Naruto-kun should be worried about you coming to see him, and get some of his little man that I know for a fact is not little, said Enko, whispering this news to Yoshino while grinning wickedly. You saw his thing. Enko, you could get in trouble for this, said Yoshino, looking ready to bolt, contact the Hokage, and get Enko arrested for molestation charges. Whoa, calm down. It wasn't like that. I told you he had to go through it in my own way, which involved trust between teacher and the student, with me explaining the body parts of a man just like I did with my own when talking about women. I got the consent from the Hokage on this too, with Naruto talking to him soon after about what went on. We both know I'm not like that, said Enko, knowing she had somewhat of a reputation, but nothing along the lines of kids, and violating them in such a way. She wasn't Orochimaru. I suppose I'll have to trust you. Even I know you wouldn't dare touch a child in such a way, said Yoshino, but the fact this kid would one day make some woman a very happy woman when intimate kept running around her head, and it was difficult to keep such thoughts from the forefront of her mind. Damn right. Now, let's go to the Hokage's office together, take care of our own personal matters with him, and then we can have some fun before moving what you need out of the Nara clan, said Enko, as she wrapped her arm around Yoshino's shoulder, and they walked to the large tower in front of them. With Naruto several days later. Naruto was glad he had a whole week off before the naming of Genin teams were made official, as it gave him time to get back to living in his apartment again, which the third Hokage had so generously upgraded, and used the funds from the civilian treasury to do it. Of course, the civilian council protested, but the Hokage told them that the building's maintenance and upkeep was their responsibility that should not have been ignoring on account of the building only having one person living there. As such, the Sandaime had made the building an apartment complex meant only for shinobi, which put it under his control, and thus penalized the civilian council with heavy fines that went towards the apartment's remodeling. In short, the civilian council had basically paid against their will in fixing up Naruto's home, and they were steaming mad. The Sandaime also had special security seals added to the building to prevent any kind of vandalism, which might occur from drunkards, idiots, or the angry mobs that wanted to kill Naruto because of Kyuubi. The seals would prevent any damage from being done while secretly alerting Anbu of such attempts at destroying, and were ordered to take such people to Ibiki or Anko for re-education on respecting other people's place of living that shouldn't be disrespected in the first place. Damn, talk about one hell of an upgrade, said Naruto, walking into his home, which at one point had some rickety floorboards, pieces of wallpaper peeling down, and some kind of mutant fungus in one of the closets he had barricaded to keep it contained. Now the apartment had new floorboards, freshly placed wallpaper, and the mutant fungus apparently having been removed with a "thank you" card from Konoha R&D for giving them a unique specimen to study. Even more wonderful was the single bed he had slept in for nearly a decade was a queen-size piece of beauty, which gave him more space to enjoy, and no doubt make his fun with all the girls more enjoyable too. Knock, knock, knock. Speaking of which, hello Naruto-kun. May I come in? Said Ayame when Naruto opened the door to see the ramen girl smiling at him with a hint of lust in her eyes. Of course. How is your father doing? Without you helping him run the stand will do doubt drain him, said Naruto, hearing Ayame giggle at the idea, knowing it wasn't true. Daddy will manage without me. I already told him I was going to see you today and he completely understands. I still can't believe he agreed to me dating you, said Ayame, as she had no idea that Naruto had used his submission eye on her father, and basically got him to give his blessing to date, much less sleep with his daughter. Naruto had basically programmed into the man's head that his daughter was old enough to start dating, as well as smart enough to choose the right man to make her happy, and that if it was Naruto, well then all the more happiness to his angel. Of course, it was to be kept a secret from everyone that wasn't supposed to know, and Tuki was going to keep his mouth shut to ensure their happiness. I have my moments. Now, would you like a tour of my home, and what's changed? Said Naruto, taking her hand, and could see the lust in her growing. Yes, I would like that very much. Why not start off with the kitchen and then you can show me the bedroom? Said Ayame, seeing Naruto smirking, and then wrapped his hand around her waist with the hand groping her butt while walking through the apartment. As you can see, Ayame-chan, the kitchen is now brand spanking new, a new stainless steel fridge, complete with an oven and stove that just won't quit, said Naruto, feeling the heat from Ayame growing and the redness in her cheeks spread from his touch. That's great, Naruto-kun. What about the bedroom? Said Ayame, as she jumped a bit when Naruto lifted her skirt from behind, and touched her special place that was no longer being protected by barrier of fabric known as panties. Simply because she wasn't wearing panties anymore when seeing Naruto. This way, Anko-chan is still sore from what we did a few days ago, so this bed hasn't really been broken in, and I would love it if you would be that girl I'd do that with, said Naruto while having one of his fingers in her, going deeper, and felt the woman whimper with need for his touch. Even more so when she nearly came after Naruto channeled chakra into his finger near her. I want you, Naruto-kun. I want you so badly. Said Ayame, her body burning with need thanks to his touch, and couldn't wait any longer. I know you do, Ayame-chan, but you know I will easily split you in half if I were to simply enter and take your virginity. So you need to lube me up with that mouth of yours. Alright, said Naruto, as he began to disrobe while Ayame just nodded and looked hungrily at his waist, knowing the prize that awaited her. When Naruto dropped the last bit of clothing holding back his erect tool, he sat on his bed before Ayame almost dived to the ground between his legs, and engulfing the large tool into her mouth. She was licking and stroking him lovingly like she had dozens of times before since Naruto had used his submission eye. Her loins felt like they were on fire, as Naruto had so carefully denied her the last push over the edge of the orgasm his fingers had stirred, and wanted him to put out that fire with his cum in that special place. However, to earn that right, Ayame needed him to be ready, and it would be wrong in her program to be submissive mind to not prepare his for such a special undertaking. I need to thank Anko-chan later for all the great tips for giving Naruto-kun blowjobs when she helped me visit him in the forest of death, thought Ayame, as she felt his hands on her head, and the moaning of pleasure that was music to the woman's ears, knowing she was causing such sounds. Oh yeah, Ayame-chan. That's it, my ramen girl of the cum right out like only you can, said Naruto, as he too would have to thank Anko for her teaching Ayame, and let out a roar of pleasure before dumping his load into the girl's wanting mouth. Swallowing the cum, Ayame quickly cleaned his further before stripping her clothes she had on, and straddled his waist while aligning his wet tool against her wet slit. The head of his erection pressing against her opening, Naruto waited until the girl was ready, since giving something like to him was special, perverted nature aside, and could wait until Ayame entered him willingly. I'm ready, Naruto-kun, said Ayame huskily into his ear while her s were right in front of his face. Then do it, Ayame-chan. Give yourself to me, said Naruto before she did just that, and let out a silent scream when the pain of losing her virginity while holding onto him tightly until the pain left. Let's keep going, Naruto-kun, said Ayame into his ear before feeling him lift her up and then thrust back into her slowly at first while picking up the pace with time. Ayame gasped in pleasure from the feeling of him entering her, which, as wet as it was from before, was now coating his with vaginal juice, and attempting to milk it for what its contents held. Naruto himself was in heaven at feeling such tightness being wrapped around his, as he ed on each of the woman's s at different and random intervals that made Ayame cry out in pleasure. The woman held onto him while he continued to thrust upward, hitting all the right spots with his well-endowed erection, and the way he grabbed hair in a strong groping grip was also a surprising turn-on for the ramen-making girl. I want to come into you, Ayame-chan. I want to unload my spunk into your tight, said Naruto, picking up the pace, and could feel she was getting close too. Do it. Come in, my Naruto-kun. Make our first moment all the more complete. Fill me up with your sperm, said Ayame, feeling him thrust harder, faster, and gripping her rear with more strength. Unable to hold back anymore, Naruto came hard into Ayame, feeling her orgasm along with him, and her squeezing him for the cum he had been holding back. It was a moment of incredible pleasure for the two, as they collapsed on the other with Naruto rolling Ayame onto her back so he wasn't killed in the pleasant blissful manner of her suffocating him. How does it feel to be a woman, Ayame-chan? Said Naruto, as he felt the woman's hot and heavy breath hitting his spiky hair. Wonderful. Can you keep going? Said Ayame, loving how he was inside of her and the feel of his muscles rippling when touching them with her fingers. Do you and your dad make the best ramen ever in all of the elemental countries? Said Naruto while groping her and loving how a little touch of chakra in his fingertips could make the woman take such an intake of air at the sudden jolt of pleasure. Oh Kami, said Ayame, as she felt the incredible feeling running through her already sensitive and the shifting Naruto did with his hips. The name Naruto will do, said Naruto, looking her right in the eyes, flashing crimson for a second before changing to blue with an intense look of lust in them. It was a good thing the room was heavily soundproofed. Konoha Shinobi Academy. Several days later, Naruto was humming happily, as he waited patiently for his Junin sensei to arrive while some of the others, and wondered who his sensei was going to be until it was time to be promoted to Chunin. Asuma had come to take Team 10 away, which consisted of Ino, Shikamaru, and Choji. Next had been Yuhi Kurenai, who looked indeed like a feminist, as she glared at every guy in the room before asking for Team 8, consisting of Inuzuka Kiba, Aburame Shino, and Haruno Sakura. That's right, Haruno Sakura was denied her chance to be with Sasuke. Man, she had been so pissed off at Iruka for denying her that particular right. Oh well, not his problem, and the only thing going for Naruto was the fact Hinata was on his team. Hell, the moment she heard that, the blonde saw her blush before collapsing on the ground, letting out all kinds of cute girly-like sounds. And yet no one seemed to notice. How very odd. The only two problems Naruto had, however, was Sasuke being broody, and their sensei Hatake Kakashi being late. Of course, Naruto was told by Anko in advance that Kakashi was always late, and not to expect him for a few hours. The blonde was actually tempted to sneak out, find one of his girls, and just screw either of them silly. Unfortunately, such an idea was scrapped when Naruto realized Anko was working today, and Ayame was no doubt in the middle of her shift at the ramen stand. While Naruto could be at two places at once, neither Anko or Ayame could with any such attempt, raising a red flag that the blonde didn't need being raised. Must get stronger. Must kill Itachi. Must get stronger. Must kill Itachi, thought Sasuke while he waited and brooded. Must not abduct Naruto-kun. Must not rape him, yet must not abduct Naruto-kun. Must not rape him, yet, thought Hinata, staring at Naruto while turning her eyes on and off every few seconds while staring at him with a blushing face. While this was going on, Yuhi Kurenai was busy with evaluating her team, and instantly disliked for the dominating male testosterone it possessed. Even she questioned if Sakura was a girl or just a gender-confused boy trying to be what he or possibly she could not. It was only through Sakura's howler monkey of a female voice that Kurenai was satisfied with defining the Haruno as a female of the human race. Inuzuka Kiba was definitely a pervert from the way he looked at her the second she asked for Team 8, and further proved that men were indeed dogs, ironically enough, when it came to viewing women. As for the Aburame, Kurenai couldn't get a read off of him, but suspected the boy was eyeing her with lust behind those glasses, and had to fight back the urge to punch the boy in the face just to break them. Okay, let's get this over with. My name is Yuhi Kurenai. I'm your Junin sensei from now on unless you fail your true test, and if you do fail then you will get sent back to the academy. You with the dog, speak. Tell us about yourself, said Kurenai, seeing Kiba focus on telling about himself now rather than the fact he was looking at her chest. Kiba talked about himself, inflating his ego in the process, saying he was the strongest of his class despite not being Rookie of the Year, and would mop the floor with Naruto. Kurenai didn't care about the boy's dreams, likes hinting at perverted actions, and the dislikes being another guy that smelled of foxes with a hint of ramen and snakes. While normally the latter of such things would disturb Kurenai, the Genjutsu mistress was well aware of Anko training the blonde, and had expressed dislike in the idea of the special Junin training any male since they will only focus on the woman's lack of clothing the whole time. I wish I was with Sasuke-kun. He'd say something awesome, like about family, love, and the desire to meet that special girl with pink hair that will one day fill out in the chest area. Not like Ino Pig or that Hyuga girl. Thought Sakura with inner Sakura deciding to speak up. We both know what she hides behind that jacket. Bet she's waiting to corner Sasuke-kun and then flash him like a pervert. Just like Ino Pig too. Said inner Sakura getting angrier by the second. Your turn now Aburame, said Kurenai seeing the boy adjust his glasses for a second and staring down at the ground before speaking with the Junin suspecting the boy had some kind of secret foot fetish. Kurenai made a note to get some bug repellent for her feet. Maybe her legs too. Ew. I hate bugs. I hate dogs. And I hate the people who use them, thought Sakura while inching away from the Aburame having explained briefly what he liked. Well, at least he's keeping his pervert-like ways to himself, thought Kurenai knowing the boy would at least be more tolerable than the Inuzuka and motioned for Sakura to speak. Finally, I'm Haruno Sakura. I like Sasuke-kun. Sasuke-kun's hairstyle. Then there are his eyes and his greatness from being an Uchiha. I dislike Naruto Baka, Ino Pig, the Tai Hyuga girl hiding that rack behind her coat waiting to flash Sasuke-kun, and every other girl trying to get into my Sasuke-kun's pants. My dream is to one day marry Sasuke-kun and rub it in every girl's face, said Sakura while crossing her arms while looking like a pouting child. Well, at least she hates one boy, but likes another, and from one of those snooty clans that think they can do anything. No doubt she thinks the boy is wonderful like every other guy in Konoha claims to be, but in secret they are perverts, and they only want one thing that every girl has. Well, when I'm done with this girl, she's going to hate men, love women, and kick every man in Konoha that so much as sneezes in a perverted manner right in the balls. Thought Kurenai while internally laughing at her ingenious plan to convert this girl into a man-hating feminist. Pardon me Kurenai-sensei, but you mentioned a real test, and yet we have graduated from the academy. Could you please explain? Said Shino driving the woman's thoughts from her head. Oh yes. Well, the test they gave you at the academy is not the official test in having a genin team, and you need to pass my test to see if you're worthy, said Kurenai while slightly pleased and yet angry one of the boys on the team answered such an intelligent question instead of the girl. Damn it, I don't want another test. I just want to be a shinobi already, said Kiba while whining like a little kid not getting his favorite toy. Males. They want something and whine when they don't. How pathetic, thought Kurenai while once again thinking about the negativity of the male gender. What will the test be on? Said Sakura curiously. Meet me at training ground number 6 for your test tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock sharp. Don't be late, said Kurenai, but she glared at Kiba and Shino while looking at Sakura with nicer eyes before leaving them to their own devices. Like she expected the boys to be late than the girl on the team. Well, that Ed want to do something, said Kiba looking at Sakura, then at Shino, and missed the girl's offensive look at being asked out on what she perceived to be a date with the Inuzuka. Baka, I will only accept dates from Sasuke-kun, said Sakura before she punched Kiba right in the face and sent him flying far into the village. Tomorrow will be most interesting, said Shino before leaving the girl. With Team 7, Kakashi finally showed up after several hours of waiting, which proved to be a mistake for the Junin, as Naruto hated tardy people, and made Hatake pay for it by hitting him with multiple balloons covered in paint. While the Junin didn't like being hit by so much paint, it wasn't like he could complain, as he saw Naruto laughing at his expense while Hinata was stuck between laughing and horror at her crush being punished for it. Fortunately, Naruto wasn't punished sans the insult about the prank being made by a weak child, and Kakashi was surprised by Hinata sending a spike of killer intent at him for the insult while the blonde just ignored it. Sasuke didn't care either way, as he was not impressed, too absorbed into himself, and secretly thinking of Neji in an inappropriate manner. When the trio met Kakashi on the roof, he was still covered in paint, but seemed to be taking it rather well with the exception of the rainbow colors that covered his silver hair, and the damage to his perverted book. The Junin could have failed them outright for this stain on his honor, not to mention the honor of Ika Ika Paradise in general, but there was the Sandaime to consider, then the Hyuga clan, and the councils for failing the Uchiha all because of his book getting paint on it. Yeah, like either of the three sides, much less all three would even tolerate such a notion. Even Ika Ika was no match for them. Okay, you three, I want to know your likes, dislikes, and dreams for the future. You can go first. I Mr. Hate Tardy People, said Kakashi pointing at Naruto. Don't be late and I won't recolor you to look like a man who marches in the gay pride parades, and we'll get along just fine. My name is Uzumaki Naruto. I like ramen, women, shinobi training, and everything good that comes from them. I dislike holes, most of the village for being filled with them, and trying to be controlled by outside forces. My dreams. My dream is to one day be Hokage, then use that power to make the leaf strong, and punish those that wronged me in humiliating ways, said Naruto grinning evilly, and then letting out an evil laugh made Kakashi along with Sasuke nervous. Hinata was close to having an orgasm from hearing that his likes were women, but had to fight it off knowing she was in public, and in front of her crush fantasy lover. Okay. You now, the one with the bow to me I am Kami look on his face, said Kakashi pointing to Sasuke. I am Uchiha Sasuke. I have no likes. I have plenty of dislikes. My dream? None. Just want to get revenge, said Sasuke simply. He's gay, thought Naruto. You don't need gaydar to see that, said Kyuubi grinning at the joke about almost all Uchihas being gay, but only have wives to keep people from knowing, and have to use the Sharingan to put them in a genjutsu to fool the unsatisfied women. Plain, yet direct. Now you misses blushes a lot, said Kakashi pointing to Hinata. My name is Hyuga Hinata. IIL like cinnamon R rolls, training tea to get stronger, and a certain someone that I hope will recognize me. I dislike mean people. My dream is to. I can't say, said Hinata bowing her head at the end while blushing even more and trying to hold back the nosebleed. Well, that was interesting, but the real test will begin tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock, and see if your team can become the new Team 7. Oh, and don't eat anything or else you will throw up, said Kakashi seeing Hinata look a bit frightened. Naruto was curious about the test, and Sasuke was intrigued. Yet Kakashi felt a shiver run up his spine at the Uchiha's look. I'm out of here. I have to train, said Sasuke before heading off, leaving Naruto and Hinata alone. Anti-sociable jerk, said Naruto while looking at the direction Sasuke went. We could get to know each other, said Hinata inching closer to Naruto while the blonde looked at her and smirked. How very true. But let's not do this here, Hinata-chan. There are far too many ears and eyes. Let's go somewhere much more private, said Naruto seeing the Hyuga girl's face light up and nod quickly. The boy moves quickly, thought Kyuubi grinning at the boy's move knowing using the submission eye would just be overkill, but overkill was Naruto's style, and anything less wouldn't make the blonde the shinobi he was now. Follow me, said Naruto, as he took her hand, and they vanished from sight. Inuzuka clan home. Mom, I'm home, said Kiba, as he sat down at the table, and sighed at such a worthless day involving his Junin sensei. Mom's not here, runt. She's out on business. So how was the meeting with your team and Junin sensei? Did you tell them all about your likes, dislikes, and your dream not to wet the bed 3 times a week, said Hannah, as she knew her baby brother had a bit of a bed-wetting problem growing up, and being the big sister she was had never let him live it down. In the privacy of their own home, of course. Shut up. If you must know, the meeting was just all right, and our Junin sensei was about average, said Kiba while seeing Hannah raise an eyebrow at him. Average. That's all. Your Junin-sensei is Yuhi Kurenai. From what I've heard, she's quite skilled in genjutsu, and can help you in that aspect, said Hana while seeing Kiba make a face. Are you kidding? I've got the worst teacher. She has this look in her eyes that screams out, man-hater, and wants to kick any guy within arm's length in the balls, said Kiba seeing Hana raise her eyebrow again and the smirk she had growing. Well, I don't see the problem since your balls haven't descended yet, said Hana leaving the room while laughing at Kiba's face now turned red with anger and embarrassment. Cammy must hate me. Why else would I have a teasing older sister for a bitch? Thought Kiba while wondering what the deal was with his Junin-sensei. What's this I hear about your balls still not descending? At least not fully, said Sum coming into the house and saw her son bash his head against the table. Mom, please, not so loud. What if Naruto Baka overhears? He'll never let me live it down and no one else from my class. Said Kiba seeing Sum raise an eyebrow at him. What is it with you always trying to compete with the Uzumaki Gaki? Said Sum, as she heard some interesting things about the kid from Anko on account of her training him due to the Baka Academy teachers messing it from the start. Well, he got Rookie of the Year and I'm somewhere in the middle. How the hell can I keep up with him? Said Kiba, as he smacked his head against the table repeatedly, and missed his mother's sweat drop rolling down the back of her head. Well, aside from killing what little you have of a brain, I could talk to him, and find out how he was able to get so good. Said Sum seeing Kiba look at her with the ever-clear wide-eyed horror face a son shows their mother to make them know it is a bad idea. No, if you do that, then Naruto will tease me to no end, and say I need my mother for everything, said Kiba fearfully while Sum just smirked. Oh, so you're a big boy now. Just because you're Genin doesn't mean anything, as you still have to pass your one final test by your Junin-sensei in order to stay a Genin, said Sum seeing Kiba grumbling a bit. Yeah, well until then, I'm still legally adult, I remember that much from Aruka's boring classes, and I deserve to be treated like one, said Kiba seeing Sum narrow her eyes at her son's words. If that's how you feel, then you can wash your own bed sheets when you've drenched them in your piss, and hang them out to dry for all to see the yellow stains. Said Sum seeing Kiba blushing red from embarrassment knowing his mother had taken great pains to conceal such a humiliating thing. Come on mom, you know what I mean. How can I one day take over the clan, if you still see me like a kid, or a runt of the family? Said Naruto seeing Sum smirk at him. Who said you were going to run the family? Hana is older and far wiser than you, said Sum seeing Kiba look at her in horror. If Hana took over the clan, Kiba would have no protection for his sister's evil ways of humiliating him, and he'd be under her thumb until his death. But Hana is cruel to me all the time. Can't you have her married off to some jerk from another clan or noble in another country? Said Kiba seeing his mother glaring at him for such a stupid remark. Watch your mouth, brat. Your sister will take control of the clan if and when I say so. She still has plenty of time to decide or find herself a man without the desire to run our family. As for your problem with the Uzumaki Gaki, I think I'll talk to him, and see what Anko-san saw in him to train in the first place, said Sum heading out and Kiba looking ready to faint. Please Cammy, I don't ask you for much, but please don't let my mom embarrass me, and make me a laughing stock of my clan, said Kiba before he let out a shriek of pain on account of Hana appearing behind him and giving him a mean wedgie. She won't runt. That's my job after all, said Hana gleefully, as she pulled the underwear up more, and more until achieving the goal of giving Kiba an atomic wedgie. Damn you Hana, said Kiba in a squeaky voice while trying to see properly. Naruto's apartment. Hinata had a hard time trying not to pass out in Naruto's apartment simply by being in the apartment while the boy of her dreams both clean and naughty sitting right next to her. There were so many things Hinata wanted to ask him, as to how he got so strong, why he wanted her here, alone, and in his apartment of all places to talk. Part of her perverted mind was saying he took her here to have his way with her, as it was always meant to be, and another more rational side was saying Naruto wanted to be teammates for now while being the Hyuga girl's lover later. So Hinata-chan, what's it like being in a large and powerful clan? Said Naruto, starting off formal, polite, and courteous to the girl. It's okay. There is a lot of SS stiffness within the clan. What I mean to say is we don't really be bond that well, said Hinata, blushing a bit more for the perverted thoughts in her head growing more and more out of control. Really? Shame. I wish I had such a large family growing up. Most people hate me for something that's not my fault. You don't hate me, do you, Hinata-chan? Said Naruto in an innocent voice filled with hope for a positive reaction. Never. I could never hate you, said Hinata, unknowingly moving closer to him. That's good to hear. I'm glad we are teammates, Hinata-chan. Can you imagine Sakura being on our team? Or Kiba? Said Naruto, shivering at the thought, and Hinata doing the same. We could be more than teammates, Naruto-kun, said Hinata in a suggesting tone. You mean true friends? Said Naruto, wishing to play the dense person a little bit longer just to see how far Hinata would take this. I was thinking more than friends too, said Hinata, pushing her fingertips together. Really? You mean like us being a couple? I don't think your clan would approve, said Naruto, seeing Hinata fighting back her shyness to talk to him in a now or never like state. We can see each other in secret. My father doesn't pay much attention to me. In fact, the Hyuga elders have been having the female members of the clan teach me certain things about being a member of our clan, and that of a woman, said Hinata, feeling herself turn red again. What do you mean? Said Naruto with actual curiosity. The Hyuga elders want to move me into the branch family, where they want to have me married off to another stronger male of the clan, and produce children with him. To bring about that maximum potential of that happening, the Hyuga elders have several females skilled in intimacy and pleasing of the male body using ours. If I were to fail in being a genin or even make it to becoming chunin in a few years, I will be put into the branch family with the cage bird seal my cousin wears on his forehead to ensure my place among the ranks of the clan, said Hinata, seeing Naruto frown at that. Oh hell no. Not this girl. She's mine, thought Naruto, with Kyuubi agreeing. Methinks you should speak to Hiashi about arranging something for her while using your eyes to further insist on such a move, said Kyuubi, knowing this girl was going to be a bombshell of a knockout when she got older, and the fox would be pissed off to no end if Hinata went to some unappreciative baka. Don't worry, Hinata-chan. I can help you get stronger, and I know a special junin with the skills needed to help teach you after we're done with our team training, said Naruto, seeing Hinata's eyes widen in surprise. You mean she would help me? Said Hinata, seeing Naruto smile. Of course. I'm her star pupil. Granted, I'm her only one, but Anko-chan is actually kind of nice when you get to know her, and past all the crazy, I love to lick blood when I cut people's faces, habit she has, said Naruto, hearing Hinata giggle and saw her blushing more, no doubt at the idea of licking his face. When can I meet her? Said Hinata, knowing enough about the woman that she didn't live locally in terms of housing within the leaf. After our test tomorrow. She'll like you, I know it. Said Naruto, pulling her closer to him, and saw the girl was lit up like a Christmas tree. It's now or never. Kiss him. Kiss his cheek. His lips. Hell, go south of the border if you need to stake your claim. Just get him. Said inner perverted Hinata, having decided to let herself be known. And with those words in mind, Hinata snapped in terms of self-restraint, as she leapt onto the waist of the blonde boy of her dreams, and kissed him passionately. Surprised a bit by her sudden boldness, Naruto allowed Hinata to continue kissing him, and put his hands on her hips. While the two engaged in tonsil hockey, Naruto felt the girl's hips gyrate against him, and the blonde realized how suppressed the girl was in terms of her feelings for him. One of his hands went up the back of her jacket, through her shirt, and felt the designs of a seal there that made the Hyuga girl stiffen before stopping their heated making out. Hinata-chan, what's this? It feels like some kind of seal. Said Naruto, seeing Hinata look at him sadly before getting off of him. The Hyuga elders had the women in my clan, who were training me in the UAL arts to enhance my body using ancient Hyuga techniques, and those passed down from woman to girl. My mother was also enhanced since she was a girl before marrying my father, but I inherited it from her before the enhancements began, hence why I look so developed now, and to further ensure my father doesn't know about the elders, they have a seal on my body that keeps my true physical body from being seen, said Hinata before turning around and raising the back of her shirt for him to see the seal there. And if you tell your father, said Naruto running his hand gently over seal in her skin, they'll still do what they plan to do anyway since my sister Hanabi has a chance to be the clan head when she's older. Recently father has had me spar with her and I've had to hold back knowing that if I don't then my secret could be revealed. It could destroy the clan from within and I'm scared, said Hinata, her mood to be with Naruto practically shot to hell, but a spark of it recovered when his hands wrapped around her waist, and pulled the girl close. Don't worry Hinata-chan, you seem to be forgetting just who you're talking to here, and what I'm known in being. I'm Uzumaki Naruto, the most unpredictable guy in all of the leaf. I'll help you think of something, said Naruto into her ear and felt the Hyuga girl shiver. I knew I could count on you Naruto-kun, said Hinata, as she blushed at feeling a certain thing from Naruto shifting a bit around her rear, and once more felt heat swell within. Of course you can, but I would like to see your true form, and in return I'll share a secret with you that only no one aside from myself in our generation knows about, said Naruto moving seeing the girl nod and then moved away from him before putting a hand on the seal at her back. Physical manipulation. Release, said Hinata while going through a few hand signs before her body began to waver, shifting like it was moving through dimensions, or a genjutsu. When it ended, Naruto's jaw dropped from its hinges, and couldn't believe his eyes with Kyuubi doing the same. To be blunt, Hyuga Hinata now looked like she would in a few years, as she was taller, long hair, firm, and a bust that could give Anko a run for her money. Kit, you know how proud I am of you, right? Said Kyuubi seeing Naruto mentally nod. Holy crap, Hinata-chan you look, incredible. Said Naruto seeing the girl blushing at his praise. Thank you Naruto-kun, said Hinata, as even her voice sounded wide to Naruto's ears, and it made him even more excited. But alas he needed to tell her about Kyuubi and it made Naruto nervous. Relax Kit, if the Hyuga somehow rejects you, then the submission I can change her mind, and then some good old-fashioned makeup will follow to make things all the better, said Kyuubi knowing that this girl was not going to get away from his vessel at all come hell or high water. Okay Hinata-chan, you've shared your secret, now I need to share mine. What do you know about Kyuubi? Said Naruto seeing Hinata look at him questioningly. He was killed by the Yondaime over 12 years ago. Why? Said Hinata seeing Naruto take off his shirt and blushed at the sight of his muscles only to see him mold chakra to show her the seal on his chest. I wish. The fox live Hinata-chan. The Yondaime sealed up the fox inside me and the villagers have hated me ever since, said Naruto seeing Hinata look at him, then the seal, and then back at him in shock. Does the fox influence you? Said Hinata seeing Naruto shake his head no. Nope. What you see is all Uzumaki Naruto. Just think of me as a living prison, warden, guard, and jail cell all wrapped in one, said Naruto seeing Hinata nodding her head, but was also curious about the seal, and stepped closer to him. See can I touch it? The seal I mean, said Hinata trying to stop the perverse side of her from coming out. Sure. The fox can't do anything, said Naruto while hearing the fox scoff at his words, which both knew weren't entirely accurate, but for the sake of the girl in front of the boy, the Kyuubi was willing to be silent, and let its vessel get some. Reaching out, Hinata touched the seal on Naruto's stomach, pressing her fingers against his hard muscled body, and blushed in the simple fact that she was touching him in the first place. Her inner perverted self was telling her to move a little lower to his pants and pull them down to free what she desired to see. What the Hyuga had only seen through the Byakugan during her glances, stalking, and naughty dreams that made her want him more. The seal is so complex and yet beautiful in its own way, said Hinata, as she ran her hands through it, and then stood straight again with her eyes on Naruto. There's one more thing you need to know, Hinata-chan. One last secret I feel I can trust you with, said Naruto, seeing Hinata focus entirely on him. What secret could you have other than Kyuubi? Said Hinata, wondering what else could impress her in regards to the blonde. Just that I have a bloodline limit. It's called Submission Eye, said Naruto, activating his eye power, and Hyuga Hinata was completely at his mercy, having been too shocked to counter it. What's happening? Thought Hinata, while her mind tried to fight off this power, but could not, and yet a part of her just said, go with it. Since Naruto was the one doing this. Hyuga Hinata, you are within my power. As such, anything I say goes when we are together in the privacy of my home alone, or when your secret harem sisters are with us for perverted reasons. I'm not going to alter much about you, Hinata-chan, except that in order to prevent yourself from being sent to the branch family of your clan, you need to stop holding back, and show your strength. I will talk to your father and convince him of arranging for you to marry into my clan that no one except a few know about, and keep you safe. Do you understand? Said Naruto, seeing Hinata nod in understanding. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Hinata simply. Good. Another thing is, I need you to stop stuttering and being shy when around me. I think it's cute, but I also like how you have a passionate side underneath it, and it really makes me love you all the more. Understand? Said Naruto, seeing even in her hypnotic state, Hinata still blushed at his praise, and he would have laughed if not for the fact her programming was important to finish. Kit, I sense someone coming. Better hurry up, said Kyuubi while cursing the person responsible for this intrusion. Now, Hinata-chan, I'm going to turn my bloodline off, and when I do you will remember everything I just told you. However, you cannot tell anyone who doesn't know about this, and keep it a well-guarded secret for now, said Naruto before ending his bloodline's hold over her, and not a moment sooner due to a knock at the door. Making a shushing sound, Naruto motioned for Hinata to put her disguise on, and her jacket, though it was clear the Hyuga girl didn't want to. Still, it was for appearances in front of anyone, and the person at the door could be someone Naruto didn't trust. When the blonde opened the door, he was surprised to see Inuzuka Sume standing there with a grin on her face, and whistled at the sight of his apartment. Damn Gaki. I knew the Sandame splurged on your apartment complex after getting control of it, but this looks pretty nice, and makes me want to leave my clan home to live in a place like this, said Sume, slightly surprised to see Hinata standing there, but didn't see anything bad from what she could tell, and saw Naruto raising an eyebrow at her. You're Kiba's mom if I'm not mistake, right? Said Naruto, seeing Sume was actually impressed he knew her. So my son talks about me a lot, huh? Said Sume, glad she was being talked about by her son. Yeah, but I don't know if you want to hear what he said, and make you angry, said Naruto, seeing Sume scowl at the idea of her son talking bad about her. My son may be an idiot at times, but I don't think even he would be stupid enough to speak badly about his mother, considering all the dirt I have on him, and his childhood, said Sume, growling almost dangerously at Naruto. Oh, Kiba's that much of an idiot from what I've seen, but I'm being rude, and talking about your son out here where people can hear us. Come inside, said Naruto, letting the woman into his apartment while secretly eyeing Hinata that she had to leave and that they would do things later. Excuse me, Sume-sama. I have to go home before my father sends out branch family members of the clan to hunt me down, said Hinata, bowing respectfully to the woman and then leaving after giving Naruto a quick kiss on the cheek before running off. Smooth Gaki. You got a Hyuga girl after you. Better keep it from Hiyashi though, or else he'll use that gentle fist on something you don't want struck, said Sume while she felt a strong amount of pheromones had been released recently in a flux of sorts and knew it came from those two. Kit, she's going to suspect something sooner or later due to her Inuzuka senses. You have to turn her now, said Kyuubi, knowing once Sume put things together, it would spell disaster, and needed the woman under the boy's thumb. I can handle Hiyashi. I have a move no Hyuga or even Inuzuka for that matter can resist when it comes to me, said Naruto, seeing Sume raise an eyebrow at his boasting and was now seeking to challenge him on it. Really? And what move is that? Said Sume, leaning down to face Naruto, who just smirked a devious smirk, and made the Inuzuka feel like a dog caught in a trap set by a mischievous fox. This submission said Naruto, putting Sume under his control, and the woman felt herself surrendering to the power of the Dōjutsu. Seeing Sume was now his, Naruto began to issue his hypnotic suggestion to the woman, and decided to enjoy the rest of the day with her after learning she wasn't needed much in the village today. With Anko hours later, Anko skipped merrily to Naruto's apartment, knowing Yoshino was still hashing things out with Shikaku about the trial separation and staying someplace where she could be her own woman. The special Junin knew it would be a feuding bloodbath of the figurative sort, and while Anko thought it would be nice to see it firsthand, there was a far greater desire running through her body. More specifically, her loins. Walking up to her lover, Master's room, Anko used the key she had for the room Naruto had given her, and a Yame, a copy of, to get in with the cover when asking the Hokage for them, being they were people he could trust. Quickly shutting the door, the special Junin heard the sound of Naruto getting his freak on the bedroom, which made Anko all the more excited in seeing a show, and being a part of one later. To her surprise, it wasn't a Yame that Naruto was ing from behind like a bitch in heat, but Inuzuka Sume wearing a collar on her neck with a chain in Naruto's hand while he kept thrusting into the woman's. Sume had a ball gag in her mouth, hands bound behind her back, and was drooling through the ball gag at being into submission by the blonde stud. Well, I see you got yourself quite MILF there, stud, said Anko, seeing Sume was too lost in pleasure to even notice her at the moment. Oh, you know me, Anko-chan. I wouldn't be me if I didn't bag myself at least one MILF for my harem. Besides, we both know you've wanted to have at least one romp with this bitch, and see what Sume-chan is like in bed, said Naruto, speeding up his thrust and let out a roar before coming into her while the Inuzuka matriarch cried out from the ball gag with a muffled howl of pleasure from her own orgasm. Are you going to go after her daughter too? She's a few years older than you, but still has a nice pair tits like her mother, and Ani know you'd love too, said Anko while disrobing and then walking towards Naruto, pulling out of Sume. If she's anything like her mother, then Hana-chan will fall in line, and join my growing family, and give Kiba Baka control of the Inuzuka clan. Sume-chan was most talkative about Kiba's problems regarding his bed problems, and his sister's constant attacks on his male lifestyle, said Naruto while seeing Anko grinning, knowing he would use such dirt on Kiba and keep the dog boy in line. Hence the ball gag, said Anko, getting on her knees and began to on Naruto's while loving the taste of the combined juices that coated it and covered it with her tits. That and the woman knows how to howl when she comes. Honestly, I don't know when was the last time she got ed, but it's clear such an event hasn't been done in a long time, and I've been the only man inside her since after Kiba Baka was born, said Naruto before groaning at Anko's expert blowjob while running his hands through her hair while the special Junin used those great jugs of hers. Well, you do have that effect on women whether they've gotten any in a while or not, Naruto-kun, said Anko, licking the head several times and then ing on it while her tongue moved its way down the shaft. Oh shit. I love it when you do that, Anko-chan, and yeah, I think I do. Now prepare for my cum because I'm going to release right into your mouth, my snake, said Naruto while he bobbed her head up and down a few more times before letting free his cum for the special Junin to swallow. Think you can me now like you did her? Said Anko, knowing the boy had stamina, but she didn't know how long he'd been screwing Sume, and the special Junin didn't want her lover to try performing at a level he was unable to after working over one of his other girls. Oh, Anko-chan. How you wound me. Have you forgotten just who I am? Said Naruto, his eyes flashing crimson, and grinned a devilish grin. Oh yeah, my mistake, said Anko with a cheesy grin. Damn right it is, and you are going to pay for it, said Naruto, his grin becoming more evil with Anko becoming slightly fearful. Mercy, said Anko, letting out a squeak when he picked her up and threw the woman onto the bed next to a still out of it Inuzuka Sume. Not a chance. Don't worry, Anko-chan. You'll be in good company when this is over and can have a chance to have some fun time with Sum-chan later, said Naruto, smacking Anko-chan, making the woman yelp in surprise before she whimpered under his now gentle massage of the cheek he struck. If one were to somehow peek into Naruto's bedroom in his apartment, one would think he was the craziest, and yet luckiest sob on the whole goddamned planet. Why? Simply because he had not one, but two hot women in his bed on the left and right of him while snuggling up against his body. Lucky bastard. Damn, I haven't felt satisfied like that since, well, ever. Masturbation and vibrators got nothing on this Gaki, said Sum, wide awake, feeling sore, and yet feeling good all at the same time, with Anko in the same boat. Oh yeah, he's practically spoiled and broken us with that tool of his down there, said Anko, kissing Naruto's shoulder and licking it sensually. Speaking of which, it seems a certain someone's tool is now up, and wants to be used by us again, said Sum, seeing Naruto's erection springing up under the sheets. Poor Naruto-kun. After satisfying the two of us like he did, it's only fair we reward him for his efforts, and show him our appreciation, said Anko, smiling at Sum, who smiled back, and the two descended down to Naruto's waist. Oh Kami. That feels so good, said Naruto, as he felt the combined sensation of the two women alting his with their tongues, mouths, and hands. The combindo from them overwhelmed him and he came all over the two women currently under the sheets. Think of it as a thanks you for cleaning out my gutters, Naruto-kun, said Sum with a smile on her face when she reappeared again from out of the sheets with Anko doing the same. That's one hell of a thank you. Join me in the shower you two and I will give you're welcome, in return, said Naruto with a perverted grin, and in a flash the three were soon in the shower with the blonde make good on his word in giving the two women a you're welcome, knowing he had plenty of time to screw them before going to the team meeting for their official test by Kakashi, since Anko had told him the man was always late. With team 7 hours later. When Naruto arrived, he saw Hinata was in her disguised state, but less shy, and standing straighter than what she normally did in public. Sasuke, being the broody bitch just like always, had his sitting under a tree just, you guessed it, brooding, and thinking of ways to kill Itachi. And possibly considering the raping of Hyuga Neji if the boy didn't reply to his secret admirer letters soon. Hi everybody, said Naruto, seeing his two teammates look at him and only one continue eye contact with a smile on her face. No, not Sasuke. The other one. The actual girl of the team. Good morning, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, as she saw him smile happily at her, and of course the girl knew why Naruto was so happy this particular morning. She didn't need to use her eyes to know he got laid. Somehow, the girls Naruto had used his eyes on had formed a special link with each other, knowing who was among the girls within the village were a part of Naruto's secret harem sisterhood, and who among them had gotten laid by the blonde. Even though Hinata had been recently turned, her affection for Naruto gave the girl a strong connection to the sisterhood, and even more so when the seal hiding her true form came off. Good morning, Hinata-chan. Sleep well. Get enough to eat this morning, said Naruto, as he had a shadow clone visit Hinata in the morning, sneaking into her room, nearly getting some in the process, which was stopped by Neji by making his presence known, and after the blonde hid under the bed was able to inform the girl about Kakashi's way of doing things with the genin teams he selected. Yes, I am well rested and ready to pass our test, said Hinata while wishing she could have eaten Naruto's shadow clone that morning, but her cousin had ruined everything to make that possible, and made a mental note to somehow humiliate her cousin for it. Maybe she could put a bucket of water in his room and make him wet the bed. Excellent. How about you, Sasuke? Ready to seize the day? Said Naruto, seeing the Uchiha shrug and brood again. None of your business, loser, said Sasuke, wishing their sensei would show up while ignoring the anger in Hinata's eyes. Don't mind him, Hinata-chan. We have more than enough skill to pick up the slack should the Tem not be able to handle himself, said Naruto in a whispery voice, which made the Hyuga girl giggle, and saw the glare the Uchiha was sending since it was clear he heard the blonde. And what will happen after we pass? Said Hinata in a whispered voice near Naruto's ear while keeping it out of range of the Uchiha. I'll think of something, said Naruto grinning slightly while Hinata had to fight back the nosebleed she wanted to let out. Good thing too because Kakashi had finally arrived and was ready to start the test. Poor Kakashi. If only the Junin realized just how bad a situation he was truly in right now. Of course, the man had given the trio a rundown of bells, fighting him with the intent to kill, and all that stuff he told the other genin teams sent his way. When Kakashi told them the test started, Naruto along with Hinata hid together while Sasuke hid in his own dark corner of a tree, and began planning his moves while his teammates did a joint plan of their own. Kakashi just stood there waiting for them to move and noticed a tumbleweed roll by. A tumbleweed? Here. Okay. Who has been practicing environment-altering jutsus again? I know for a fact the Sandaime banned such things after an Akamichi turned one of the training grounds into an all-you-can-eat sherbet ice cream land. So many children became diabetic that day. Not to mention the loss of teeth and the cavities, thought Kakashi, as he made a mental note to check on that, and what else was going on around him. Ready Hinata-chan, said Naruto whispered to Hyuga girl while he looked from his spot in the trees at Kakashi while Hinata used her Byakugan to again look through his pants. Oh yes. I am very ready, said Hinata now drooling hungrily at the sight the Dōjutsu bloodline had granted before the sane part of her mind knocked out the perverted side of the girl and took control for the moment while telling its other half to wait until later when there were no witnesses before the girl moved quietly into position. Here goes nothing. Ika Paradise S, said Naruto leaping down from his spot in the trees and saw Kakashi snap his neck towards him with a narrow eye. What did you just say? Said Kakashi hoping his ears deceived him. Anko-san told me how you just love Ika Paradise and how you would defend its so-called greatness to the death. Well I say Ika Paradise ass. Said Naruto with a grin that made Kakashi get angry that some gaki had the nerve to even say such horrible blasphemy. How dare you? This book is pure literature gold. Forged from the fires of epic perverse pleasure no man would dare trade for anything, said Kakashi bringing out his book and cradling it like the book was a newborn child. So if a hot woman wanted to your brains out, you'd shoot her down, and read what the woman wanted to do to you. Are you secretly gay? Said Naruto seeing Kakashi get even angrier. I am not gay, said Kakashi giving the boy an evil glare. Well you just said you'd turn down anything and my example fit the description. Either you're an idiot, or you're secretly in the closet gay. Not that there is anything wrong with that, but to lie to people, and hide it using such smut is just wrong. Said Naruto since he learned from Anko that making someone angry can make them sloppy and making them act sloppy was the best way to take someone down. I'm not gay, yelled Kakashi, who was looking to have an all-out seizure, or heart attack. Then you're an idiot. Now Hinata-chan, said Naruto knowing the plan had worked. What? Said Kakashi sensing someone behind him and turned slightly to see Hinata come out from the ground before hit the Junin with an uppercut. To his balls. I'd say I'm sorry, but I just don't like your kind, said Hinata sweetly before taking the two bells and then skipped over to Naruto before giving them to him with a kiss on his cheek soon following. I think we passed. What say you Kakashi? Said Naruto seeing Kakashi look up at them in pain and nod his head while whimpering. Yes. You passed. Congratulations. Aid Kakashi in a high squeaky voice. That's it. I didn't get to do anything. It's not fair, thought Sasuke, as he wanted to do something to show the greatness of his near-extinct clan, and now unable to do so now with his teammates claiming victory. Great news. Now we celebrate, said Naruto with a fist shooting into the air. I know how I want to celebrate, thought Hinata with perverted things running through her mind involving herself and Naruto. Sadly, her family's all-seeing eyes would notice if she was no longer a virgin on account of the females of the clan doing such thorough checks, and Hinata knew each woman that did such scans were loyal to the elders. Up for some ramen Hinata-chan? My treat and I'll throw in some cinnamon rolls, said Naruto, seeing Hinata look happy at the news since she loved cinnamon rolls like Naruto loved ramen. That and it was, in some strange and unusual way, an aphrodisiac to her. I'd love to, said Hinata, as the two left, leaving a still whimpering in pain Kakashi, and a mind-frozen Sasuke wondering what he could do now. Inuzuka clan home sometime later. Mom, where were you? Said Kiba, having passed his sensei's strange teamwork-based test while using genjutsu on the three of them individually to find out if they would help the other. Only Shino had caught on, and strangely enough, only Shino helped his teammates. Their sensei had wanted to fail them, but Sakura had shown such promise in hating all men around her with the exception of the Uchiha. The female Junin knew it was imperative that the team pass, and secretly teach the Haruno girl the power of feminism. None of your business, runt. I run this home, and if I want to leave for any number of hours, then I damn well do just that. Said Sum, having taken a long hard shower long after her time with Naruto that morning was over to remove the genin scent from her body should any among the clan smell that young shinobi's scent. I know, but Hana is being a bitch to me while you were gone, and said Kiba before getting a kick in that sent him into a wall. I'm being a bitch to you, am I? Maybe I should strip you and hang you in front of the female hot springs for the girls there to laugh at your situation in being a runt in more than one way, said Hana, cracking her knuckles and smiling wolfishly at male Inuzuka. Enough. Both of you. I come home after some much needed relaxing personal business, and here you two are fighting like two dogs over a bone. You two may be adults, but that doesn't mean I'm not too old to bend the two of you over, and spanking yours like children, said Sum, seeing the two gulp and nod their heads in understanding. Sorry, Mom, said both Hana and Kiba at the same time. That's better. Now from my understanding, you Kiba just passed your team's test with Yuhi Kurenai, and are now a part of Team 8, said Sum, seeing Kiba puff out his chest like he had made such an even happen all by himself. Sure did. I can't wait to rub it into Naruto Baka's face and use it to swoon Hinata-cha, said Kiba when he was kicked in the face this time by Sum. Don't insult Naruto again, or I'll strip you in front of the female section of the hot springs and shove something unpleasant up your, said Sum, growling at her son while Hana just watched stunned at what just happened. Mom, why are you standing up for the Uzumaki kid? Said Hana finally while seeing the look her mother now shot back before relooking at Kiba. Because the kid's got too much shit done to him in his life, and I will not have my own son do anything mean to him so long as I'm clan head. Also, don't let your genin status get to your lower head, Kiba, because I have it on good authority that Naruto's sensei has never passed a team until today, and has once again set a first in the village, said Sum, as she saw her son whine at the unfairness of it all, and put her foot down on Kiba's chest to make him shut up. There is something going on here. Mom wouldn't just defend the Uzumaki brat with such vehemence out of the honor and pride of the Inuzuka clan. There is something more to it than that. I'll have to keep an eye on her later, thought Hana while outwardly smirking at her brother's act of submissive behavior in front of their mother. With Naruto and Hinata. At the moment, Hinata in her body's unsealed state was doing something she had wanted to do with Naruto in a long time, and that was playing tonsil hockey with the blonde. The two had eaten their meal, talked to Ayame, who revealed herself to Hinata as one of the secret harem sister, and were currently in a private spot in the forest of one of the training grounds. They were far away from prying eyes, ears, and any other organs a body may have to spy on them while they kissed the other with a passion. Their hands weren't idle either, as Naruto had unzipped Hinata's coat, and had one of his hands up her thin shirt to grope the impressive bust the Hyuga girl had acquired early on through the physical therapy the Hyuga elders ordered her to undergo for their own plans. As for Hinata, she was loving the pleasure Naruto was giving her, but just as he had his hands groping her body, she was doing the same to him with her own hands, and loving the feel of his hard muscles from countless hours of training. She gasped when one of his hands went into her pants, gently touching the fabric that was her panties, and indirectly the most sacred of treasures her body possessed. No doubt Naruto knew how wet she was getting from his hand groping her, and now even more with his other hand making the Hyuga moan of pleasure spike in volume. Deciding to return the favor, Hinata let one of her hands travel to his pants, undoing the zipper, and reaching for the prize that awaited her. She felt him tense at her touch at first before moaning at the stroking the Hyuga girl's skilled hands were doing to his rising, and felt his fingers touching her through the panties part the fabric to touch Hinata more directly. I want you so damn bad, Naruto-kun. I want you inside of me. I wish you could take this thing in me, silly, said Hinata into his ear while Naruto moved to her neck and giving the girl hickey that would be hidden easily under the heavy coat. Don't worry. I'll talk to Hiashi soon. Until then, just do what you're doing, and I'll do what I'm doing. Speaking of which, said Naruto, touching her and channeled a bit of chakra into his finger in a swirling motion, with the end result causing Hinata to shake almost violently into an orgasm. Oh Kami, said Hinata, as she found herself holding him while feeling his hand keep most her juices contained, and watched Naruto take that hand out before licking the cum off each section of it. Yummy. Just like I knew you would be, said Naruto simply. No fair. I want to taste you. I will taste you, said Hinata with determination before she fell to her knees and took his into her mouth to show Naruto the skills she had been taught to please a man that would one day be her husband. Though she was sure the husband himself would not be one of her choosing, but Hinata was positive that such an event of her doing this to anyone except Naruto was non-existent now, and that he would use his power to change such a life. Hinata wanted Naruto to be the only man she ever did this kind of thing to, and with his submission there was a distinct possibility that this would be a repeat thing. Damn Hinata-chan, you're doing an incredible job, said Naruto, as he felt his eyes roll in the back of his head, and put his hand on the back of her head while enjoying the sounds of her mouth working his. When my female teachers instructed me, they said I should picture my future husband when I did this during this in practice, and I would always pictured you. I will only do this with you, Naruto-kun, said Hinata, stroking him lovingly when she spoke and then back to bobbing her head with his in her mouth once more. Damn straight she will. I am so speaking to her father after this, thought Naruto before he let out a small cry of pleasure and came into the girl's mouth, with Hinata using her eyes the whole time so she wasn't surprised. After swallowing his load, Hinata made sure his was cleaned up before putting it safely away, and gently zipping up his pants while Naruto himself handed back the heavy coat after she reactivated the seal. Checking the other for any signs of their fun, which they did not have any for anyone to see, the two merely reintegrated themselves back into the village, and act like nothing had happened. Hyuga clan compound later that day. Naruto smiled inwardly, as he was requested into Hinata clan home, and knew that Vixen of Hyuga girl had told Hiashi about him being her teammate to get this audience. From what Hinata had told Naruto of her father in general, Hiashi was a man who wished to evaluate anything that could be a pro or con when it came to the Hyuga clan, regardless of that something was being either possibility on purpose or by accident. Naturally, given Naruto's status in being a demon vessel, he was pretty sure the man saw the blonde more of a con than a pro to his daughter, and wished to see if that belief was indeed correct. Hiashi already knew Sasuke was on their team, but Naruto knew that the Hyuga clan had cared little for the brooding bastard, and would only deal with the last Uchiha, accordingly should the need arise. Thank you for coming at my request, Naruto-san, said Hiashi, seeing Naruto was not dressed in such peasant-like clothing, but something respectful, and maybe even worthy of wearing in his clan home. Of course, Hiashi-sama. One does not turn away a request from such a powerful clan like yours unless they have a death sentence on their heads, said Naruto, being respectful to the man while inwardly waiting for the right time to strike, since Hiashi was clearly on guard for any kind of act against his person. Indeed. Such wise words for one so young. Your time with that strange woman has not made you crude like her, but that's not why I requested you here, and I am not about to insult you for your choice in secret teachers during your time at the academy. I asked you to come here because of Hinata, as it has come to my attention that my eldest of my 2 children has been placed on Genin Team 7 with you, and some of the elders have expressed to me concerns about this given your status here in Konoha, said Hiashi, seeing Naruto nod, since the Sandaime had made it clear in the last meeting with the clan heads that the blonde knew of his status thanks to Mizuki. Or at least they thought was because of Mizuki. They think I'll turn on Hinata-chan and do horrible things to her person before I destroy what's left, said Naruto, simply seeing Hiashi nod while watching the boy with carefully calculating eyes. Correct, said Hiashi, seeing Naruto scoff at the notion. With all due respect, Hiashi-sama, but those elders are idiots, and pardon me for saying this, but you will become one too if you believe that garbage, said Naruto, seeing Hiyashi's eyes narrow slightly. You have chosen your words well, boy. One might think you just insulted me, said Hiashi, seeing Naruto narrow his eyes back. Do you believe the elders and their words? Because only if you do then will I have been insulting, said Naruto, seeing Hiyashi's eyes lessen in terms of narrowing. No, I don't. However, a father must always keep a watchful eye on things when it comes to one's daughter, and even more when she's from a high-ranking clan such as ours, said Hiashi, seeing Naruto nod in understanding. I understand. You just want to make sure Hinata-chan doesn't get backstabbed or put in harm's way by those around her. I can promise you right now that such a thing will never happen with me, and if you'll excuse the blunt rudeness of my words, Hiashi-sama, I'd sooner cut off my nuts than let anyone hurt Hinata if it could be avoided, said Naruto, since the Hyuga girl meant a lot to him regardless of the submission I being used to bring her into the fold. You speak your words with a great deal of conviction. A lot like someone I used to know back when I was still a genin. Still, it takes more than that to calm the worries of a man like myself, and that of the elders wishing for an excuse to have me speak to the Hokage about changing the teams, said Hiashi, seeing Naruto smirk. I'm sure they do. Still, given what I am, wouldn't it be better if Hinata is on my team, as my friend, and not the other way around? Who better to protect her from harm than the vessel of the Kyuubi? Said Naruto, seeing Hiashi nod at what he was saying. Agreed. I am entrusting you to protect my eldest daughter from any harm should such an event ever arise, and there will be consequences should you fail, said Hiashi, narrowing his eyes at a still calm Naruto. Then I have nothing to worry about, right, Hiashi-sama? Still, there is one more thing you should know about, and it concerns Hinata-chan, said Naruto, seeing Hiyashi's own curiosity get the better of him and leaned closer to the blonde. Know what? Said Hiashi before he saw Naruto's eyes change before his own. This submission, said Naruto, using his power to overcome the usually immune from outside influence Dōjutsu bloodline the Hyuga clan possessed. Naruto now had Hiashi under his power, and the blonde was going to use this moment to the best of his ability. Hokage TOWER 2 weeks later. Naruto was so glad he was getting laid or getting oral by the different girls in his life, because without them right now he'd go crazy with all the so-called missions Team 7 had been doing. Picking up at weeds, mending fences, painting fences, helping the Nara clan with some escaped deer, and see how Shikamaru's father was looking like an even lazier man than usual, with Shikamaru not falling so far thanks to Ino that joint mission with Team 10. Walking dogs, which didn't like Naruto for obvious reasons, and then there was the fact some of the civilians that hired them tried to be tight-fisted around the blonde since they didn't want to pay him for his hard work on account that they hated the boy. Sasuke was always confused by this, but Hinata wasn't going to tolerate it, and she had basically told those idiots to knock it off unless they wanted the Hyuga clan to stomp there. Not her words, but Naruto basically pictured it in his head what she meant by bringing the clan down on the heads of the civilians, and smiled knowing his girl had a fire inside that was coming out the more time she spent with him. After Naruto used his eyes on her father, Hinata was later requested to meet the clan head, and her sire had given his blessing to the idea of his daughter dating Naruto. Of course, Hiashi had told Hinata to be discreet since the Hyuga elders were no doubt going to use such a thing to further stress that she be placed in the branch family, and marry her off to one of her Hyuga relatives with the least amount of blood relations in them. Hinata understood, of course, but at the same time wished it wasn't so, and was shocked to learn that her father had secretly arranged for the two genin to be married when older just in case. However, for such a plan to work, one if not both of them had to advance to the rank of Chunin, and within the next few years. Hinata had no problem with that since Naruto had already explained that Anko could help with additional training in terms of flexibility to further blend with her own variation of the gentle fist. Can't you give us harder missions, old man? I mean, we've met all the requirements for AC rank, so give us one, and soon before we go crazy. Said Naruto, seeing the Hokage sigh at his words and was hesitant to do so even if the statement was true. I suppose you could have the one available to us. It's a simple escort mission to Wave Country. You leave tomorrow morning with the client, so be ready and get your shinobi gear ready, said the Sandaime, seeing Naruto grin, as Hinata smiled, and Sasuke smirked at the thought of getting stronger while outside of the village. Akatsuki HQ. I love pickles. I love pickles. I love pickles. Pickles are great. Pickles are great, said Kisame, eating some pickles while singing his tune about them. Kisame, stop singing or I will hurt you, said Itachi, hating the song the shark man was singing. Pickle hater, said Kisame while some of the pieces in his mouth fell out and hit Itachi in the face. Kisame, said Itachi with a icy voice that made Kisame pause in his eating. Yeah, said Kisame worriedly. You have 5 seconds to run before I use my Sharingan to make you vomit at the very smell of pickles, said Itachi, seeing Kisame go pale and run away from the Uchiha. Too bad for Kisame, that whole speech nearly took all of the 5 seconds Itachi had given him, and the shark man's screams could be heard throughout the Akatsuki base. What did Kisame do now? Said Konan, hearing the screams. What he always does when around people. He annoys them until they get violent, said Pain while hearing Kisame cry out that he was sorry and to not use pickles like that on him. Whatever they were being used for anyway, no one wanted to know. Is that why you put him with Itachi? Because of the Uchiha's pacifism-like beliefs? Said Konan, seeing Pain raise an eyebrow. Hardly. I put those two together so Itachi would do exactly this. I simply hate the pickle song, said Pain, seeing Konan sweat drop at his words at his choice of doing things. Why not simply castrate the man? Back in Konoha, Naruto was heading towards the one shop he knew would not try to screw him over in terms of getting the supplies a shinobi needs in terms of weapon, armor, weights, and storage scrolls. It was the weapons store belonging the Isis family, which were a simple store, but due to their rich shinobi heritage in being a shinobi family was able to sell almost every single item imaginable to the right people at a decent price, and not like those civilian piss ants that tried to sell just about anything they could while exaggerating about it to their customers. Hey Fox, wasn't there a girl by the name of Isis Tenten a few years ahead of me when I was at the academy, and the only one to take shinobi training seriously among the girls in her class? Thought Naruto while thinking about the shop for a second and the last name that went with it. Oh yeah, an Isis Tenten, if I recall correctly from your memories. When was the last time you saw her? When she graduated, right? Not a bad body, that one. From what I have come to imagine, she has a nice that with a little bit of wiggling could make eyes wander, and head snap at the neck, said Kyuubi, grinning perversely while let out the giggle of a pervert. Well then, I shouldn't keep Tenten, or that lovely rear end she has waiting now, should I? Thought Naruto with a grin now showing on his face. Walking into the weapons store, Naruto was greeted to the sight of every single piece of shinobi equipment to be sold here in this building, and noticed there was no one around to greet him. The man, who was Tenten's father, ran the shop, and was a retired shinobi from years ago, with his wife sadly passing away during childbirth due to complications in bringing their girl into the world. Since then, the man had tried to keep his baby girl from being harmed, but sadly enough for him, Tenten had embraced the shinobi lifestyle, and preferred weapons to dolls when growing up. She was one of the boys when growing up and could hit pretty hard in a fight when some older kids made fun of her for not being more girly. Suffice to say, the boys that picked on her were soon on the ground, holding what was left of their family jewels in their hands, and then they were quickly lifted off the ground by the rim of their underpants from the vicious wedgie Tenten gave them before they were all hanging onto different tree branches. Ignoring the girl's past actions upon the idiots of the male body, Naruto walked around the store hoping to find Tenten, or even her father for that matter, since the man could be hit by his Dōjutsu in order to get to his daughter. Sadly, neither was around, but that did not stop him from looking, and stopped for a second when he heard what sounded like a moan of sorts coming from the back. The door behind the register leading into the back was slightly open with a light on in the back, though it was clear the light was in the far back area of the store. Sneaking into the back, Naruto wondered what the source of the moaning was, which from his own experience sounded a lot like a female doing something naughty, and would otherwise be considered perverted should it be seen by anyone. Making his way deep into the back with the moans getting louder, Naruto saw a sight that made his hard, and slowly grin at what he was witnessing. What he saw was Isis Tenten, leaning against a large box, shirt unbuttoned, her pants down right to her ankles, panties parted to the side, and was currently masturbating while groping one of her s. At the moment, Tenten had no idea she was being watched, and continued her need to remove the tension in her body. She had put up with all of Guy and Lee's antics this morning during training, while Neji, being the uptight jerk he was, had just done his usual scowling Hyuga thing. To think she once had a crush on the guy. What was she thinking? I see London. I see France. I see Isis Tenten's underpants and the wet treasure that lays beyond them, said Kyuubi, grinning and giggling in Naruto's head. Should I interrupt? Given her current state of dress or lack thereof, I think Tenten could be taken down, thought Naruto while the girl continued to get herself off before him. No, let her finish. She'll be so overwhelmed by pleasure, you can sneak up behind her, and then use your eyes to make the girl do whatever you ask, said Kyuubi, seeing his vessel nod. So in other words, sit back and secretly enjoy the show, thought Naruto with a grin while watching the once bun-haired girl getting closer to climax. The blonde had to admit it was taxing on his self-control to just watch. Oh shit. I'm coming, said Tenten to herself while going faster with her fingers in each hand on their targeted spots, molesting her body. Sure enough, Tenten had reached her climax, crying out in pleasure, feeling the juices explode from her, and collapsed onto the box she had been leaning on for support before falling completely to her knees. The girl was gasping, panting, and sweating from her endeavor to pleasure the flesh that was her body that she had been doing this early last year. She had an adult-like dream, which involved her doing things with phantom males in her dream that Tenten was too embarrassed to even speak about to anyone, much less her own father, and while she had already been given the talk, with the help of a few female shinobi that came into the store, it was still embarrassing. The only thing Tenten didn't have to worry about in regards to her first was the secret fact she had lost her hymen during a training exercise that had been painful, but was told the pain from that was a one-time thing, and there was nothing to be ashamed of. That was quite the lovely show you gave, Ten-chan, said Naruto now directly behind the girl, which made her jump, and turned to see him with horror in those lovely eyes at being caught quite literally with her pants down. How did you get in here? How much did you see? Said Tenten, knowing that if this guy were to somehow blab what he had seen here today, it would not only humiliate her, but her father, and destroy business for the store too. Next time you want to get off while working here, you should really make sure the door is shut all the way, and find something to gag the sound of your moans too, said Naruto, seeing the fear in the girl's eyes, knowing that all he had to do was leave and tell what he saw to someone to destroy her life. Please don't tell anyone what you saw. I'll do anything you want here in the store for free. I'll give you any weapon here free of charge, said Tenten, seeing Naruto raise an eyebrow at her. Anything I want, said Naruto like he was making sure he heard correctly. Why yes, said Tenten, though she was suddenly nervous for some reason. What if I want you? Said Naruto, seeing her eyes widen. Me, as in you want to, said Tenten, not knowing how to react to that, but before she could even consider fighting him, or even negotiating some way to keep what little of her dignity intact, his eyes changed. Submission said Naruto, making Tenten's eyes go glazed, and he smiled at seeing her now falling under his control. And another one is claimed. That's my vessel, said Kyuubi with a grin on his face. Ten-chan, can you hear me? Said Naruto, seeing Tenten nod slightly. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Tenten dumbly. Good. Ten-chan, I'm going to tell you some things, and you will accept them no matter what I say. Understand? Said Naruto, seeing the girl again nod slightly. Yes, I understand, Naruto-kun, said Tenten while the power of his Dōjutsu did its thing on her mind. I knew you would. Now Ten-chan, this is the scenario. I walked into your store to buy some weapons for my mission tomorrow, but didn't find anyone manning the register, and heard moaning back here. When I came back here to investigate, you were doing naughty perverted things to yourself, which I saw you do, and enjoy watching you do them too. I made myself known after you had your orgasm, but instead of being angry with me, you are still excited, and horny after what you just experienced. When I turn off my eyes, you will feel that same feeling as if it never left, and wish to further explore the idea of with me in exchange for my silence at seeing your naughty act. After our time here, you will want to do this again at a much more suitable location, and with your other secret harem sisters. The fact you are now biol with them doesn't bother you, but rather makes you feel even better, and wish to speak to them later about all of this. Do you understand, Ten-chan? Said Naruto, as he saw Tenten's body already showing a physical reaction to his commands in being excited, and horny again. Yes, Naruto-kun, said Tenten before Naruto deactivated his bloodline and brought the girl out of her hypnotic trance so the reprogramming could take effect. Hey Ten-chan, you feeling all right? Said Naruto while she remembered everything his Dōjutsu power had downloaded into her head and saw her looking from him to his crotch with a hungry look in her eyes. Very much so, Naruto-kun. Still, I would like to ask you keep what you saw to yourself, and to accept my incentive to keep this between us, said Tenten with a seductive smile, as she reached for the zipper of his pants, pulled it down with the unbuttoning his pants soon following, and she got them along with his boxers down to his ankles to reveal the blondes already hard that had been aching to feel release since Naruto had first seen the girl masturbate. Show me how good your skills are and I'll consider what I saw to be a figment of my perverted imagination, said Naruto smiling, as the girl nodded, and began to give his a lengthy tongue bath before ing on the head of his erection with one of her hands massaging his balls. Tenten has also once secretly read her father's Ika Ika Paradise book. I love it when a perverted plan comes together, said Kyuubi, giggling with perverted glee at his vessel getting so many hot bitches in this secret harem. Damn Ten-chan, you're doing pretty well for your first time doing this, said Naruto, feeling her mouth working his over and he was getting close to coming. Thanks, Naruto-kun. I'd love to continue practicing on you at a later time, said Tenten, as she felt the hypnotic programming from Naruto's submission making her feel this way, and couldn't hear the rational side of her mind crying out to rip his balls off. I'm going to come. Swallow it all and you got yourself a practice dummy, said Naruto, as he grabbed the back of her head, and moved the girl to continue her oral ministrations to make him release. With his release of cum soon following, Naruto could hear Tenten gulping down his seed, and it was music to his ears before the sound of her mouth detaching from his with an audible pop noise being made in the process. The girl licked her lips seductively, got off the ground, bent over the box she had leaned on while masturbating earlier, and gave hair a wiggle. Come on, Naruto-kun. Teach me how to be your bitch right here and now. If you do, I'll give you a special discount on whatever you need, and more in the future, said Tenten, as her horniness from what she did earlier, combined with just giving Naruto a blowjob, had made her desire to have another orgasm at his hands was too much, and needed the release badly. Naruto would have to be crazy to refuse. Gladly, Ten-chan, said Naruto, as he was feeling the urge too from the sight before him, and quickly positioned his to thrust into her. Don't worry about my hymen, Naruto-sensei. Lost it in a training accident. Don't hold back in my training. said Tenten, having sensed his reluctance in not wanting to simply dive in. Good to know, said Naruto, grinning fully now, and thrust into Tenten all the way and felt the girls tighten around his almost instantly, while the girl herself cried out in pleasure. It was most fortunate Naruto had made a shadow clone before approaching Tenten to make sure the door to the back stayed shut. His is filling me up. How can anyone have something like this filling me up inside? Thought Tenten, as she felt his manly tool inside her, and was instinctively moving back against him to give the man the signal to keep going. Which he did. Naruto pulled back, albeit with some difficulty, and then thrust back into Tenten's hot love hole, with the girl crying out at the sudden jolt of pleasure from the thrust. Reaching his hand around, Naruto parted the rest of Tenten's shirt, pulled down her bra, and then began groping the now of the girl he was on top of while thrusting with quick yet strong pushes forward. How do you like my hands-on approach to teaching you about being ed like a bitch, Ten-chan? Said Naruto, giving an extra hard thrust to the girl, making Tenten grip the box tighter. So good, Naruto-sensei. Keep going, Naruto-sensei. Teach me, said Tenten, as she felt her body being overloaded by the pleasure of his, and the hand on her. I will, Ten-chan. Because this is your first day, I won't overload you with too much work, and after I come inside your tie will we call it a day, said Naruto, as he sped up his thrust, and pinched Tenten's S harder. Oh shit. I'm coming, Naruto-sensei. I'm coming, said Tenten, as she gripped the box tighter, and let out a scream of pleasure when the orgasm hit, with more pleasure behind it than she ever had when fingering herself. Me too, Ten-chan. Me too, said Naruto, as he released his cum into her, and loved how great it felt. So how did I do for my first time, Naruto-kun? Said Tenten, as the two soon got cleaned up from their action, and walked out to the front of the store. Not bad. You still need practice, and I suggest a tutor while I'm on my C-ranked mission tomorrow. Fortunately, I know the perfect sensei for you, and I'll let her know about your desire to learn, said Naruto, seeing Tenten's eyes glaze for a second, and knew the power of the submission eye was working its power on our mind. I would really like that, Naruto-kun. Though we'll have to talk to my dad about letting me date you in secret and the using of that Dōjutsu, said Tenten, as she felt a small conflict in her about being tamed by a guy with a powerful Dōjutsu, but at the same time she was enjoying herself, thanks to the Dōjutsu's powers, and forced any nagging-based thoughts out of her head. I'll talk to your old man after I get back from my mission to Wave Country, and we'll continue your lessons back at my place, said Naruto, with a look of perverseness in his eyes that made Tenten blush. I'm looking forward to it. Now, I believe you are in need of some weapons and supplies for tomorrow. Shall we say 50% off? Said Tenten before she let out an eep at feeling Naruto's hand groping her. 75% off, and I lick your in our next session when I get back, said Naruto, while tracing a finger to that spot being protected at the moment by those damn tight pants of hers that clung to the girls. Deal, said Tenten, knowing they could make up for it later with Naruto bringing more business her way by recommending the store to the other girls and maybe a few other shinobi in passing. That's my girl, said Naruto, giving her rear a smack before he got the supplies needed for the mission. The next day. Okay team, ready to head out, said Kakashi, who was surprisingly right on time, and with the surprisingly sober client beside him, who would no doubt get wasted before they were 50 feet away from Konoha if the bottle in his hands was any indication. Are you secretly gay? Said Naruto, which made Hinata giggle, Sasuke raise an eyebrow to show some interest, and client named Tazuna moving discreetly away from the Junin. I am not gay, yelled Kakashi before he put a hand over his masked mouth, despite all of Konoha hearing him. Whatever. Come on, old man. Guide us to Wave Country, said Naruto, with Kakashi grumbling about brats, who speak their minds when they shouldn't, and the rest of the team formed a protective formation around Tazuna while heading off to Wave Country. After several hours of walking, Naruto found the trip to Wave to be exceedingly boring, and wished they could just have Tazuna take a piggyback ride on Kakashi's back so they could get there sooner. Then again, with Kakashi's UAL preference put into question, Naruto doubted Tazuna would like the feel of the Junin's hands on his old, and may cause them to go back with the client filing a UAL harassment suit against Konoha. Perhaps walking was better. After passing a puddle, Naruto looked at Hinata, who nodded in thinking what he was thinking, and silently prepared for what had to be done. When the puddle revealed itself to be two missing nins once shinobi from Mist, they instantly went after Kakashi before they leapt at their target, and were instantly foiled by two genin while Sasuke was too frightened to move. After revealing himself not dead, Kakashi soon got information from Tazuna on why he was being targeted by two missing nin formerly of Mist, and not the expected bandits that was made the mission C ranked in the first place. Wave was suffering, a businessman named Gato was the source of it all, blah blah blah, something about a bridge, and the hope of future resting on its completion. So after taking a vote from his genin, who all wanted to continue, Kakashi agreed they would proceed with the mission, as he felt it would give his team a chance to excel, and stick it to Guy in having such a strong team. Okay, maybe the last part was a bit selfish from a certain point of view, but damn it, the Junin felt he was long overdue, and it was high time Kakashi got his boons. After reaching a large area of water, the group took a lengthy boat ride across, and made their way to the land of waves thanks to the fog that gave their tiny boat cover. As they made their way through the forest, movement in the bush was heard, and Naruto had sensed something was there that shouldn't be before throwing a kunai there. After parting the bush, a frightened snow-white bunny, which had nearly lost its life at the hands of the kunai less than an inch above its head, and wondering how it got here. Feeling a bit jumpy today, are we loser? Said Sasuke seeing Naruto reveal the bunny now currently being smothered with love by Hinata. Look at the fur it's sporting, Tem. It's white. White fur is for winter, meaning this bunny is an indoor kind of animal. Someone was here and used the bunny to swap places, said Naruto seeing the Uchiha scowl at him knowing he was right. Not that far away. That was close. If I had not moved, they would have caught me, but now they have my precious Fluffy, and I could not live with myself if Fluffy got hurt, thought the masked figure seeing the bunny now in the hands of the enemy. Back with Team 7 and Tazuna. If that's the case, then duck, said Kakashi before they hit the ground and missed being cut in half by the large Zanbeitu-style sword thrown at them now stuck in a tree. Not bad, kid. Most people would have ignored the bunny's fur color, but you have a sharp eye, and pay attention to detail, said the figure on the sword. Momochi Zabuza, said Kakashi seeing the man smile behind the bandages through the crinkling they made when he did. Hitaki Kakashi. Interesting that I should find you guarding the old man and with a genin team no less, said Zabuza seeing Kakashi tense up knowing this was going to be one hell of a fight. Of it's not like we had a choice. He kind of promised us candy, a puppy, and said to let the old man watch us while we did things from the book he reads, said Naruto making Kakashi face plant with Zabuza and Tazuna sweat drop. I did not, yelled Kakashi turning and glaring at Naruto whistling nonchalantly. Enough. I'm here for the old man. Give him to me and I'll let you live, said Zabuza getting on the ground now with his sword in hand. Or you could let us go and pretend you never encountered us, said Naruto being a wise and pissing the man off. You got balls, kid, said Zabuza narrowing his eyes at him. Normally, I wouldn't mind being told that, but from a guy with no eyebrows, and not wearing a shirt. I feel a little violated, said Naruto seeing Zabuza looking enraged by his words and rushed towards him with sword aimed at slicing the blonde in two. Damn it, loser. Stop trying to piss off the enemy, said Sasuke moving the client out of the way and Hinata dodging the blade just like Naruto. But it's so fun, said Naruto in a whining voice before dodging another. Then stand still and let him kill you, said Sasuke countered. I could say the same for you with your fangirls back home, said Naruto throwing some kunai at Zabuza to make the man dodge them and throw off his attempts to cut the blonde in two. Shut up. Who wants all those girls chasing you, grabbing to tear off your clothes, and then try to have their way with you using UAL intercourse? Who, I ask you? Who? said Sasuke, seeing everyone stop and look at him like he was crazy. Yes. Even Zabuza. Seriously. You want me to answer that? Because if I do, you're not going to like what I say, said Naruto before hitting Zabuza with a spin kick that sent the man into a tree, and Kakashi was now poised to strike the missing nin down. Time to die, Zabuza, said Kakashi before Senbon needles hit Zabuza in the neck and the man fell over in a slump. Thank you for defeating Zabuza for me. I'll dispose of his body now, said the masked hunter nin appearing before the group. Kit, I smell that bunny's scent on her, said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto's eyes widen. Really? And you're sure that is she right? Thought Naruto before looking at the figure in picking Zabuza up along with the sword. Trust me, Kit. She may try to hide it with those slightly baggy clothes, but it's doing very little to cover that sweat, and I can tell she's got a nice rack. Not as nice as Anko's, but it will be soon enough, and we both know how much you love Big S to sleep on, said Kyuubi, grinning at Naruto. Hey, there is nothing wrong with such luscious melons being used as a pillow for my head when I sleep, thought Naruto, glaring at the Kyuubi. Point taken. Now get the old man to his home. Chances are this won't be the last you see of them, said Kyuubi, seeing Naruto nod, knowing that would most likely be the case if Gato was the one responsible for hiring Zabuza. Come on, old man. Let us to your home, said Naruto, knowing the sooner they got there the better. When the group did get to Tazuna's home, Team 7 was greeted to the sight of the man's daughter Tsunami making dinner, and she was currently making dinner in the kitchen. Naruto smiled at the sight of it, as this was the making of a family, and judging from the pictures the blonde could see hanging on the wall, it was a complete set with a kid too. Father. Oh, thank Kami, I was so worried about you, and the long trip back home, said Tsunami, hugging her father before snatching the liquor bottle from his hands with the usual nagging pointing finger aimed at his old body for drinking. Yeah. Well, it's because of this group of leaf shinobi I hired here that I'm in one piece, and not in pieces after all those other shinobi tried to do me in. Everyone, this is my daughter Tsunami, and she basically runs the house around here, said Tazuna, seeing his daughter blush in embarrassment. To the right of them, on the steps leading to the second floor of the house, was a scowling boy, who looked like Kami had just taken a dump in his food, and hated the deity for it. It was clearly Tsunami's son and Tazuna's grandson the old man mentioned on the boat ride to further guilt trip the team into completing the mission. What crawled up Hi-san died, said Naruto to himself, but made sure the woman didn't hear, and the same for the old man. He was a guest in their house after all. I know what I'd like to do to that woman's, said Kyuubi, seeing it was just ripe for the taking. Later. When the mission is over and we can find a way to bring Tsunami with us without the excess baggage that is her emo-acting kid, thought Naruto, knowing that the boy was no doubt going to be a hassle and would have to be removed via his eyes. Not to mention the old man when this was over. With introductions being over soon after their arrival, which meant knowing the name of the emo boy now known as Inari, Team 7 got what rooms were available to sleep in, and the guys had to share while Hinata got her own room. However, Naruto didn't want to be in a room with either guy on the team, and chose the couch while stating he would be the first line of defense on the first floor of the house should there be an attack. You sure you want to be down here, kid? Said Tazuna with a raised eyebrow. Would you want to share a room with those two? One who would rather read smut, than actually get laid by an actual woman, and broody boy who'd rather run from girls wanting to throw themselves at him. Said Naruto, seeing the old man choke on his drink.